Hello. I got the first shipment of zombie dust out to New England. So I've had this a bunch before when I was in the Chicago area. And actually I have a review of this beer, a long rambling one, from almost 5 years ago. On my channel, haven't done a video review since. So I thought it was time. And this is real fresh. It was packaged 10 days ago. And if I haven't changed anything, it's 6.2%, I think. It doesn't say it in here. Still brewed in Munster, Indiana. They've definitely expanded a lot since I visited the brewery back in like 2015. So this is sort of like the original all Citra Pale Ale. And not super bitter like a lot of Floyds beers. Not super malty. But it does have a little bit of a caramely quality to it, I remember. But it's just, I think they started doing this like 10 years ago, and it just was, one of these first lower IBU all Citra beers that was super fruity and tropical. And now it's kind of old-fashioned, but I've always enjoyed it, and I thought it was time to do another review. Yeah, it always has a very pale amber, not quite really amber, more just like a deep golden color to it, I guess. I'm assuming they use like some crystal malt, but not as much as the Alpha King Pale Ale, which that one they could call an IPA. It's like super duper bitter, but also like really malty. And with this one, at least for 10 years ago, they scaled back on the malt and the bitterness to let all the great flavors and aromas of Citra shine, and there's just like a very, very light haze in it, some tiny, tiny particulates. I kind of like the old bottles more than these cans, but of course the cans help preserve it quite well. So, let's see. Not an explosive Citra aroma, I will say that much. Especially for 10 days old. I think it used to be a little more intense. It smells fine. It's like, kind of cooked pineapple, peach, and orange. It's a little bit of light caramely syrup. But it's not so far off from like Sierra Nevada. I feel like it looks like Sierra Nevada Pale Ale, I think, quite a bit. Maybe a shade paler, but just different hop. Yeah. Maybe a hint of that juicy fruit thing I get from Citra sometimes. But it's amazing how different it is from your standard hazy Citra IPA these days. Much more intense flavor. Still has a good amount of toasty, almost toffee-like malt. Finish is pretty dry. And definitely a good amount of malt flavor. And it has a bitterness to it. A lot less than other Floyds beers. But especially at 10 days old, it's a pretty intense hoppy flavor and experience, but it's not really, it doesn't have a huge big fruity aroma. Well, there's definitely a resinous edge that takes over your face. Now, if you gave this to me blind and asked me what hops were in it, I'm not sure if I would say Citra. I mean, yeah, it's in the smell, I guess. But brewed with a clean American ale yeast and lots of crystal malt, it just steers that flavor into different territories, almost berry-like maybe. And it's kind of piney. Definitely a lot of boiled Citra, which I guess a lot of beers these days, they don't boil the Citra. You don't get a lot of Citra bitterness in just that you get different qualities from every hop, but, in the dry hopping as opposed to the boiling. Because when you boil the hops, you can dissolve certain compounds into the beer that you can't get when you dry hop them. Of course, you blow off a lot of the specific dry hop aromatics when you boil it. But this does, I guess, it does both. But I feel like the dry hopping is not huge in this beer. No more than a couple pounds, maybe. But it is a robust flavor. It's harkening back to 2010 era IPAs before people started upping dry hopping rates a lot. But it's kind of cool to experience Citra like this. You get the quality of bitterness from Citra, which is, it's nice, but it has this bitter grapefruit, resinous pine quality to it. It's very unique, and I assume it's still only Citra hops. Yeah, they still say this intensely hopped and gushing undead pale ale, blah blah blah. I didn't look it up, but I feel like if they changed it, that would be a big backlash. That would be a bad idea. I know that there's no beer like this probably brewed in the whole area of New England. It's nice to have, and it's an intense flavor. It's nice. I like that. It's very different. It was kind of a breath of fresh air, being able to get some 3 Floyds and have some clean pale ales. I got a 12-pack of Gumbo Head. I'm more excited about that. Gumbo Head might be my favorite beer of theirs. This one deserves a 4, though, I would say. But I think when they used to do small batches, there's a little bit more fruitiness and a little bit more aroma. But being like, $13, $14 a 6-pack, that's a good deal for a hyped up hoppy beer in New England. But I probably won't buy it again necessarily. Getting it this fresh is pretty cool. But that's it. Worth a try.